With this Frontera Electric, the Griffin brand brings you a small electric Vauxhall that really might be used as a second family car in the way a Corsa Electric probably never could. The engineering here is shared with a Citroën EC3 Aircross, but delivered with a very Vauxhall vibe. My name is Jonathan Crouch. I've been testing cars for over 40 years. You'll find them all on the Car and Driving Car Reviews app. Here, I'm going to try and tell you everything that you really need to know about this car in a way you'll find nowhere else. Let me hand you over to our presenter, Colin.
The Vauxhall Opel engineers designed the Frontera primarily around an EV drivetrain, so that's what we've chosen to try here. Unlike with Stellantis battery-powered models built on the fractionally larger EMP2 platform like Vauxhall's Corsa Electric, this setup doesn't come with selectable drive modes. There isn't even an eco button, which will be a relief if, like us, this is the sort of thing you're always forgetting to engage on EVs. There aren't any brake regeneration settings either, except a rather counter-intuitive one, this C for comfort setting on the gear selector. Curiously, this provides less brake regen at 0.8 meters a second, rather than more ordinary D gives you 1.2 meters a second. The electric drivetrain comes in two flavours. Here we're trying it with the base 44 kilowatt-hour battery, a rather small package of cells for a lower order compact family car, which predictably returns a very modest range figure of 186 miles that we've got nowhere near during our time with this car. If that's a problem and you still want a Frontera Electric, then you'll have to find quite a slug more for a version with the larger 54 kilowatt-hour battery, which boosts range up to a more usable 253 miles between charges. Both variants use the same 113 PS front-mounted motor, which you might hope in a relatively light little EV would make performance feel quite sprightly, even though pulling power is limited to a modest 124 newton meters. It doesn't. The Frontera, we're told, offers a new interpretation of Vauxhall's bold and pure design philosophy. Well, unlike the Crossland model it replaces, it's certainly much more of a robust SUV than a stylised crossover. As you can see here in profile from the taller stance, accented lower sills and this quite eye-catching and rather substantial C-pillar, the nose section styled to continue the boxy vibe and of course features the brand's usual visor grille panel, flanked in this case on all models by bright IntelliLED headlights. At the rear, the bluff, almost vertical tailgate split tail light design further differentiates the car from its mechanically identical Citroën C3 Aircross, Stellantis Group cousin. Time to take a look inside. Where there's what Vauxhall describes as a clean, detoxed user experience, which doesn't sound very appealing, but does at least include climate control separated from the centre screen, a brand design difference from its French cousins. There's a simple decluttered budget vibe here, which if you hadn't tried the more appealing cabin of this car's Citroën C3 Aircross design stablemate, you might conceivably quite like. Stripy seats, a conventional ignition key, and no drive mode buttons or steering wheel paddles. If you're put off by the cheapness of some of the scratchy plastic, even a Dacia Duster feels more opulent than this. Console yourself with Vauxhall's claim that 85% of a Frontera's content is designed to be recycled. It's worth finding the extra to graduate above poverty spec trim, which really does feel very basically appointed and does without this nice fabric door trimming. More importantly, the base design version does without these more supportive front Intelli seats. There are some other nice cabin design touches too, like the way that the sides of the cup holders in the centre console feature a so-called flex strap, allowing items like a tablet to be held in place. But you might quite reasonably think that there are enough screens in this cabin already, courtesy of the brand's usual multimedia pure panel navigation system setup. Here again though, the arrangement is very basic. Through this 3-spoke Griffin branded wheel with its flattened top and bottom sections, You view a 10-inch instrument cluster that doesn't trouble itself with different display formats. Everything else you might need to know is on this 10-inch central touchscreen, which unfortunately, unlike the screen in the old Crossland, Vauxhall hasn't equipped with a proper volume knob. You sit quite high and SUV-like, which will make it easier for older folk to get in and out. And the slim A-pillars give a good all-round field of vision. OK, time to take a look in the rear, where the doors can open wide enough for parents to easily lean in and install a car seat. This is an area of this Vauxhall more likely to sell this car to you. The brand calls this a C-segment car, like say an Astra, which it isn't really, but sure enough the levels of space you get back here are almost C-segment-like, helped by the absence of a central transmission tunnel. You might find the floor of this electric version a touch too high as an adult on longer trips. The hybrid version's floor level is lower, but you won't be complaining about headspace in this boxy cabin, and knee room isn't too bad for the class of car this is, though unlike with this model's Citroën C3 Aircross cousin, there's no sliding bench option to improve it. We'll finish as usual with a look out back, on the way to which we'll mention that if you choose the hybrid version of this car and avoid base trim, you'll be offered the option to equip it with an extra third seating row. You'd hope that such a squarical shape would yield you a lot of boot space, and by and large that's true by modest class standards, though it's worth pointing out that the 460-litre total you get here with either drivetrain, about the same as a combustion Ford Puma, is actually only 50 litres more than was offered by the previous smaller Crossland model. Still, it's a pretty usable space, a huge 110 litres more than you get in a Mocha, and aided by this useful adjustable height flex load boot floor, which Vauxhall rather meanly deletes with the base spec hybrid model. With everything flat, there's 1,594 litres of space available. On to charging for this electric model. Well, both variants DC rapid charge at rates of up to 100 kilowatts, a rather unimpressive speed in this day and age, but which in this base model, because of its relatively small 44 kilowatt hour battery, allows for a 20 to 80% DC public charge in 26 minutes. It's 28 minutes for the 54 kilowatt hour variant. At home, you'll be able to AC charge this 44 kilowatt hour model from 20 to 80% from a 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box in 4 hours and 10 minutes. It'd be 5 hours and 5 minutes for the 54 kilowatt hour version. And 11 kilowatt onboard chargers fitted as standard, which would cost you an extra £360 in an equivalent Citroën E C3 Aircross. And if you're able to use it in a property with a 3-phase supply, the 20 to 80% charging time for this 44 kilowatt hour model will fall to 2 hours and 55 minutes, or 3 hours 25 minutes for the 54 kilowatt hour variant. In today's EV market, compact EV crossovers don't tend to go particularly far between charges. And this one's no different, particularly in this mainstream 44 kilowatt hour form. But that might not be much of a concern with a trendy little SUV such as this Frontera Electric, likely to be used primarily as a second family car for shorter suburban trips. It rides much better than the alternative hybrid model, and remarkably also costs considerably less, which is astonishing given just how much pricier EVs used to be than their combustion counterparts. Frontera customers might find the cabin a bit Spartan, and this Vauxhall lacks a bit of sparkle compared to its similarly priced Citroën E C3 Aircross Stellantis development cousin. But it handles slightly more sharply, and you might get a better deal on one through Vauxhall's larger UK dealer network. If that's on the table and you need a second car for suburban family duties, then yes, a Frontera Electric might suit. But for the future, cars like this need a little more pizzazz and a lot more driving range. Still, they're getting more affordable, which can only be a good thing, right?